Good afternoon. Welcome back to 3 Zen. This afternoon, I'm going to talk a little bit about flight briefings. They were so important to how we conducted our flights, our missions, if you will. It was something you didn't goof around at. They were sacred. If you came in up to a flight room, the door was shut, you didn't walk in that door. There was a briefing going on. If you saw an IP and a student sitting at a table, briefing each other, you did not interrupt them. You just didn't do that. That's how important these things were. Oftentimes, we would see the flight go as the briefing went. I've seen everything from very professional flights that went off without a hitch to complete goat ropes and everything in between. If a student graduated and was assigned to become an instructor pilot, when he came down to pit, we would initially teach him, focus on him landing from the back seat, and then begin his instruction phase and so forth, and then get him more into giving the actual briefings himself or herself, whatever. Anyway, then we would critique them as they went. Single ship briefings, by and large, just pretty straightforward. 2-ship briefings started to get a little bit more difficult, and then 3 and 4 ship briefings got a little dicey, or they could get dicey if you didn't keep your head about you. But they were the most difficult to conduct, both the briefing and the flights. As in 4-ship flights, you had 4 airplanes, 8 pilots, and it was just imperative that at any given time everybody knew where they were supposed to be and what they were supposed to be doing. When I was in the command, we lost a couple of guys in 4-ship. They hit each other because they just weren't quite sure what they were supposed to be doing, and manifested itself in an accident. At any rate, we would tell these students from the beginning that one of the things that was going to be the highlight of their career there at PIT was the 4-ship briefing. And so we started talking about it to kind of make it a big deal, because when they got back to their base, they're going to be flying with non-rated guys, with students. And so it was imperative that they took that same attitude and passed it on to their students. Okay, you got the picture. So this one morning at old dark 30, probably about 5 o'clock, the student was slated to give a 4-ship briefing in dogflight, D-flight, in Fred Prossy's office, by the way. I was not in the flight at that time. This incident happened, maybe a couple months before I got back to Randolph. At any rate, they all show up for the briefing about 4:55, kind of take their seats, get their notepads out and so forth, ready to take notes, lineup cards. And students finishing up the lineup board, putting on who's going to be in what airplane, the call signs, weather, lineup on the runway, maneuvers to be performed, position changes. So you get the idea. So he's going through all this, and they could tell he was a little bit nervous. A lot of us are that first time. We want to do it right, and there's a lot of things to cover, and you want to make sure you don't leave something out. So anyway, this kid's up there finishing up the lineup board, and at 4:58 or whatever, everybody kind of settles down. They close the door, and this kid turns around and he says, "Gentlemen," he says, "in 20 seconds it's going to be 0500." And he counts down the time hack, 3, 2, 1, 0500. He says, "Good morning, I am Lieutenant Schmuckenfuss." And at that time, his eyes went 12 o'clock, 2 off flags dropped down, and that kid dropped like a sewer pipe. Just hit the floor, wiped himself out. He's laying there on the floor, completely unconscious. And folks were astounded by it. A couple of IPs got up, rushed over to him, got him flipped around, sat up, and tried to get him back in a state of conscious. Hollywood, a guy named Henry, Hollywood reaches over to the door, opens the door, and yells out to the scheduler. He says, "Hey, Fogg," he says, "send in another one. This one just died." And Fogg looks in and sees this kid laid out. And, oh, gee. So he starts scrambling to find another guy for the foreship. That guy was done for the day. At any rate, he soon regained consciousness, but we weren't going to fly him. But also, he wasn't. They didn't turn him into the flight surgeons. That could have been a lot of trouble. So they just kind of kept an eye on him for that day. They took him off the flying schedule, of course, and talked to him about composure and about some tricks to do about keeping your knees loose. Yeah, it was a big deal to give a foreship briefing, but it's not to the point where you lock yourself up and pass out. But in later years, a lot of guys remembered the incident, but the thing they remembered most was Henry just lackadaisically opening the door and saying, "Hey, Fogg, send in another one. This one just died." God, sometimes we could be cold. Anyway, good seeing everybody. We'll see you here in the next couple days.